Don't accept that what's happening is just a case of all the suffering. Or you'll find that you're joining in the turning away.
This is a story of Baldur, a lieutenant in the Flaming Fist at Baldur's Gate. A man trying to organize his own army with the help of Alto, an outlaw, his right-hand man. This is the story of the 5 heroes who chose to stop him, but in doing so ignored the warnings of a cult trying to open a portal to the demon faith. Our hero Chandri had been called by her captain of a small shipping vessel called the Shining Dawn. She had worked with that captain on and off for a year. She was a ranger turned sailor. Don't ask me how a ranger takes to the ocean, but she did. And she grew incredibly loyal to her captain, appreciative, respectful. So when her captain beckoned her and explained to her troubles as she was being used by this Baldur to smuggle weapons and to prepare to smuggle actual enemies of the state, actual veteran soldiers. That's when she decided to resist. That's when she called on Chandri and asked Chandri to gather her friends. She knew she had friends like her, rangers and paladins. There was even a rumor, talk of a bard. And so Chandri took up the cause and said, yes, we will. We will help you. And our band searched high and low and uncovered through their contacts with a jailer that Alto was wanted. Our dragonborn paladin had been given a bounty to catch this Alto, and so he knew of him. And Cedric had heard over talk that an Alto was recruiting peasants, down and outers, disenfranchised, well-bodied men to join there. Alto had taken up a headquarters and ran people out of a neighborhood in the outer city. And outer city is not policed, it's not enforced, anything goes. And so he had bullied and taken control. He recruited some forcibly and made these peasants soldiers. Meanwhile, Grimp and Alto had raised a village in the safe lands outside of the coastal way. They had burned off the ground cover. They had felled the trees, deforested. They were building a fort. Grimp left Alto in charge of these daily things because Grimp was still a lieutenant in the Flaming Fist and he had his duties and he had to cover himself. So Alto was the perfect front man. Nyla, working on the estate, the Barley estate, had been chasing poachers for the last couple of weeks. She caught them, and she found out they were refugees from the village that had been razed and burned to the ground. The men, most of the men, if they did not join up, were killed. The kids were sent orphanless into the savage wilderness, and the women, the ones that could escape with these men, these poachers, well, they and their children were trying to live off the land of the Barley estate, and Nyla gave them refuge and swore she would investigate what had happened when she heard they were razing the forest, burning and destroying, that they had engineered a way to divert the stream. She could put 2 and 2 together. They wanted that village because it had a well and it had the stream. That's why they chose that village. And it turned out, again, that this Alto might be behind it. Cedric, calling on one of his contacts, a blacksmith, found that Alto had been using him and extorting him to fix these brand new fancy arms and armor that were coming over, manufactured into the country, but unfortunately they were not of good quality. They were new, but they were not of good quality, and they had extorted and they'd made him work to fix these things. And the blacksmith said he wanted Grimp, and he wanted Alto. They wanted into it. Chandri's captain, Marcel, she wanted freedom. So they had motivation. Nyla wanted an end to the deforestation. The paladin, bounty hunter, wanted the bounty, but he too has an affinity for nature. Harm on the world is harm upon himself. And so they set out to stop this Alto and this Grimp. Grimp being a high lieutenant in the Fist, they knew they couldn't just approach him. They couldn't make accusations. They needed evidence. Fighting him was really out of the question. But Alto is another story. So ignoring rumors of a cult trying to open a demon portal, they went on. And they found this Alto held up in his headquarters in the outer city, surrounded by these peasant warriors. These peasant warriors were no match. Most of them didn't want to fight. Most of them didn't want to be there, so they let him off. Nyla struck down in a fight with Alto. Chandri, calling on her sailor skills, ties knots, makes a lasso. Singing a shanty at the top of her lungs, she lassos this giant man, Alto, 6'7", clad in plate mail armor, wielding a great axe, has just struck down Nyla, and while in a position of weakness, she lassos him. She puts all of her strength behind it. The paladin, the 6'3" giant of a dragonborn, grabs the rope, and together they restrain this man, and they tie him up, and they hog tie him. And they attach him to a pole, and they carry him triumphantly through the outer city as the peasants come from hiding, and they cheer him. Thank you. You've liberated us from this bully, from this evil man. The peasants that had been with him, they left him. They left his side. They carried him triumphantly to the ship, the Shining Dawn. They dropped him at the feet of the captain. The captain said, "Thank you, but we've got to stop Grimp." So they loaded up the Shining Dawn, and they took the Shining Dawn fishing vessel down to the coastal way. They interrogated Alto, and they found out indeed that Grimp was building a fort and was building an army. They then took Alto and turned him in, got a bounty. And they set forth that night, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, they set forth toward the burgeoning fort. And they came across this pathetic fort, wasn't finished yet. They found Grimp in his tent, surrounded by his peasant army, which most of them fled in terror when the characters struck camp. When our heroes struck camp. But Grimp had a cave bear which he could command, and they had a fight. And after the hero slew the cave bear, Grimp surrendered. And the party interrogated him, demanded he turn himself in, threatened him, and he laughed in their face. And as they interrogated him, they saw 6 miles away on the cliff edge above the mountain, above Baldur's gate, they saw this bright light and a flash, and they saw this burning hole open in the sky. And they knew immediately that the cultist had opened the portal. And it seemed then at that point that this feeble attempt to stop such a simple task, to stop such a pathetic evil man from building a worthless army in a fort, had been brought instantly into perspective as demons they knew now had a portal, had a gateway to enter in Baldur's Gate fate. The apocalypse had come to Baldur's Gate and the Sword Coast, and the hero stood staring at this portal. And Nyla, fuming and angry, not only had he destroyed the land, not only had he destroyed these people and run them from their homes, and she, at her final stroke, angry that they were in pursuit of these vile, pathetic creatures, they had allowed the portal to open over Baldur's Gate. And in frustration, she executed Grimp there. And as they all stood over Grimp's body, with the portal in the distance, snapping and burning, they knew that the future of the Sword Coast was now in peril. The party investigated the tent afterwards and found the books, the account books of Grimp, the evidence they would have needed to have just turned him in, to have had him imprisoned for what he had done. Nyla didn't care, neither did the Dragonborn. He got what he deserved. And it was all a moot point. What law will exist when the demons run the streets of Baldur's Gate? When everything burns in the wake of these monsters? What then will it matter? This story of Alto and Baldur Grimp, Lieutenant of the Fist. Our heroes have much work to do now.
Sweet smell of a great sorrow